Yes, sir.
Okay.
No.
Okay, are we ready to proceed then? All of those in favor of Mr. Howell, please let it be known by the sign of aye. And we will start with Mr. Drury.
Aye.
Mr. Elliott,
Aye.
Mr. Calhoun,
No.
okay, Mr. Howell,
Aye.
and I so aye. Judy Little, aye. Thank you, Mr. Howell. You will now be serving as the vice. Welcome, we're happy to have you as vice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions or discussion about the new board chair and vice chair? Okay, if not, moving on, we don't have any other appointments for tonight. I think at this time, board members, should we now move into the RNG?
We're gonna do the consent first?
Yes.
The consent,
We
then the
wanna do
RNG.
consent?
We have to. Bylaws first. Oh, should be.
I know she should be here.
Okay.
Ms. Little,
Miss Little?
you
Okay.
should be here at the table.
We need to do the bylaws first, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Little. It'll make it easier for me to.
Thank you. I had a whole lot of stuff down there.
We need to nominate Clark.
At this time, citizens and board members, we will elect a clerk for our board. Any nominations?
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate our county administrator, Mrs. Melissa Rollins, as the clerk of the board.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? I don't think there are anyway, but anyway, thank you. All those in favor, starting with Mr. Howell,
Aye.
Mr. Calhoun,
Aye.
Mr. Drury,
Aye.
and Mr. Elliott.
Aye.
And I for Judy Little. Thank you, clerk. We appreciate your service.
Do the bylaws and meeting schedule. And then we'll go to consent.
Okay, all right. We're gonna do that before we go into the RNG. Okay, all right. Board members, I thank our clerk for being here because she's gonna keep me straight. The first thing that we're gonna do is the bylaws and also our, well, I guess the bylaws first. And, is that under? Yeah, right there. Are there any questions on the bylaws? Any discussions that need to be made on the bylaws? I'm not hearing any discussion, so is this at a time that we can have a motion to adopt the bylaws that have been presented for the year 2022?
So move, Ms. Chair, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll ask Ms. Powell, can we adopt the bylaws, meeting schedule, and holiday and the calendar all at the same time?
Yes.
So if we could clarify that motion to do all
Okay.
that.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the bylaws, the meeting schedule, and the holiday calendar as proposed for the 2022 year.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved in motion that we adopt the calendars as well as the bylaws for the year 2022. Any other discussion? If not, we will now entertain our roll call of ayes or nays. Mr. Howell,
Aye.
Mr. Calhoun,
Aye.
Aye.
Drury, Mr. Elliott,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you, board members. Next, we have, okay, we're moving it forward.
We have our designation of our meeting dates is next.
We didn't get that done? Okay, board members, the next thing that we need to do is the designation of the regular meeting dates, time and place, and ability to reschedule regular meetings in the event of inclement weather.
Madam Chair, I thought that was that was my intent of Mr. Howell's motion.
It was all three.
Yes,
So we've taken care of it. Are we,
my understanding, we've taken care of it.
is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Okay, now we're at nomination and election of committees. And those committees are Building and Grounds, Fiscal Affairs, Personnel, and Representation on various boards and commissions, local and regional, as follows. First, board members, are you ready to become members, or do you have any particular commissions or boards that you want to serve on, or if this is something you want to think about and maybe do at your next meeting? In my review, I think some of them we're missing some persons, perhaps, because usually we like to at least, I think, have 2 persons per for personnel and 2 for fiscal affairs and 2 for building and grounds. I think I've covered the 3 that that is related to our work for the county more so than those that are outside the county. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, just
Yes.
one item, and I know that, and I'm not going to pick on you that you're retired, you're a busy person even in retirement, I'm sure. But as this board is comprised of many of us that are still working, and I don't know, just want to put it out there for the board that I filled in on the Department of Social Services when Mr. Holmes passed away. Although they have their meetings on Tuesday afternoon, and I've been having to listen in on telephone, I don't think that's the best scenario. I can't make those meetings, and in the creative planning district has been difficult for me to make as well. I've been having to do that virtually, so I would like some considerations of whether we can, a citizen or another board member that wants to represent those entities. And I don't know that we'll be prepared to do that this evening, but I'd like the board to think about that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Elliott.
since we have so many different appointments that we may will have to make tonight to expedite the meeting, do you think this item that we could discuss and bring back to the next meeting for approval so we can get in touch with each board member, see where they would like to serve or would not like to serve, then we can bring it back to, it's hard to talk with this mess. Bring it back to the meeting so that we can fill those positions at that time.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And are there any objections to Mr. Elliott's statements?
No.
No
There are
matter.
Not at all.
no objections. I concur. I think it is something that we need to go
I
over.
just have one question for Mr. Elliott. I know you have a project on your mind that's been important to you being on this board, and I'd like to see you continue in those capacities. And I don't know, I know the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission may be one, and maybe even the Crater, I don't know. But if you I know you will, but just want to know that's on my mind. So,
Yes, sir.
to continue those efforts.
Thank you.
And that's it, and thank you.
Most appreciated.
Yes. Madam Chair, yes, I do understand the board's desire to be able to take some time to work through the appointments on the various boards and commissions. I do know that for the month of January, we do have these boards and commissions that do meet, and they do like to see who has been appointed. If we can at least do Virginia Gateway, the Crater PDC, and the Hampton Roads PDC, that will give us an opportunity to be able to notify them in preparation of those meetings in January. And that would be a request because we do have upcoming meetings in January for those 3 commissions,
Thank you.
if at all possible. I do apologize for saying that late, but it just dawned on me that they do like for us to have those appointments in place in January.
Madam Chair, just a suggestion, we don't have to do this, is that if we're not ready to do that, just the people that are serving now serve until
Yes,
the
next meeting.
yes, okay. Yep, that will work. Okay,
That'll work for
okay,
me.
all righty.
Mr. Calhoun and Mr. Howell, does that work for you? I don't know if you serve on those committees. I do serve on the Virginia Gateway. The Crater Planning District Commission I serve on.
Yes.
So, and then Mr. Elliott on the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission. So we do have those covered. Also on the Virginia Gateway region, Mr. Ernest Blunt, who's not a board member, has been a citizen member on the Virginia Gateway region. So I will let him know at this time that he would continue until there's a change, if that's okay with the board.
And that was consistent with what was done last year. Yes, it was, okay.
Thank you. All right, next on our,
Consent items.
all right, next we have our consent items. And you know, it was wonderful when I had paper in front of me, and now I have this iPad, and things are like this. Oh, thank you. Okay, we have board members, do you have a copy of your consent items?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. One, approval of draft minutes, December 2nd, 2021. Approval of counts payable for the month of November 2021 in the amount of $490,955.97. Request for public hearing, Virginia Gateway Region Industrial Facilities Authority Ordinance. Records Preservation Grant Award for $86,410.25. Request for public hearing for the floodplain ordinance amendment. Appropriation of remaining public safety answering points, which is our PSAP grant, in the amount of $505,661.44. Those are the consent items that we are requesting your approval for tonight, unless you would like to have any of them removed for further discussion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we would approve and accept the consent items as given.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Do I have Mr. Drury,
Aye.
Mr. Howell,
Aye.
Mr. Calhoun?
Aye.
And I also have to say aye, so thank you. We'll consider the consent items approved. Thank you. Next, we are at that point of public hearing for RNG. And Mr. Wade is going to be our lead staff on that public hearing. And Mr. Wade is our planning director.
Good evening, Madam
Good
Chair,
Good evening.
Vice Chair, and members of the board. Ms. Rollins,
Good evening.
good evening. So we do have before you tonight a line RNG conditional use permit. This is a project that is, obviously, Ms. Little, you know more about this project than,
Oh, did you?
than many.
I
But,
don't say so. Oh, no.
but this project is a conditional use permit. TRC Environmental Corporation, on behalf of Align RNG, requests a conditional use permit for utility service major per section 3-302C of the Surry County zoning ordinance to construct a regional facility to be used to filter and process raw biogas from multiple hog farms to create pipeline quality renewable natural gas in the AR Agricultural Rural Zoning District. The subject property is located along Route 31, Rolfe Highway, along the Surry-Sussex County line, and is identified as tax parcel 56-7. The comprehensive plan indicates the property is suitable for rural preservation. This project, as before, we basically would have processing hog waste and creating a pipeline quality gas on a parcel of 19 acres. And the project area will be limited to 5 acres of that parcel. Alon has given us a map of the actual pipelines throughout 4 counties: Southampton, Sussex, Surry, and Isle of Wight. This parcel outlined in red is the parcel that they'll be using, and just north of this orange line is where that site would go. This orange line here represents the pipeline that's going through that property, which is the reason why they wanted to site that project so close or at that location. This is an aerial photo of the property showing the adjacent properties and adjacent homes nearby with that pipeline going through that property. And this is the area right here where that site would go. You can kind of see there's wooded outline of this area separating the project from other properties. And this is the site drawing that they've given us so far. They have filed a site plan application with our office. We're still reviewing that project at this time, and their comments will coming back soon. Again, this is that pipeline coming through that property. The project is just north of that. We did have community input for this meeting. There were 2 community meetings. One was in August prior to the public hearing, and then there was one on October 27th at the request of the Planning Commission after the public hearing. There were concerns of sulfur removal, why the siting location was selected, noise that this site might generate, and amount of traffic, amongst a couple of other items from citizens. Staff comments, we found that the site, the buffers proffered are greater than industrial zoning standards. The subject property is accessed via a private drive by a major thoroughfare. Unlikely to smell gas on the site. Provides a diverse means of renewable energy, and the use of the subject property will expand the county tax base. Some of the weaknesses that we found after review was emergency response plans and coordination with the first responder organization will be just part of the project scope. We haven't had any definitive answers on that yet, but we'll still have that part reviewed. But there are also no projects to compare in the state of Virginia. There are projects in other states out west, and I think there's a site that's being under construction that's in North Carolina, but there are no sites to compare in the state. So some of the recommended conditions that staff and Planning Commission made recommendations for involved access to the site, emergency vehicle access, environmental protection regarding wetlands, visual streeting of the project, development in conformance with the plan that was submitted. You saw that the site drawing, providing a third-party inspections at the applicant's expense. The conditional use permit would expire if there's no substantial construction after 2 years. And land disturbances would be withheld until all permits are obtained. And one of the things the Planning Commission made a recommendation for at their last meeting was that somehow limit the amount of traffic and amount of products exposed at the site. They try to find a way to make a limitation. They said we will limit the amount of annual production of renewable gas per year. So if at some point their air permit increases above this threshold, they would have to come back to the Board of Supervisors for an update. So if they go across that threshold. And so at the Planning Commission public hearing, they did defer their application until November 22nd, after there were several concerns of the commission as well as from the public. Again, before they require additional information about the sulfur removal, siting location, the noise generated, and traffic to the site. Deferred that until November 22nd. At that time, the commission reviewed additional information from the applicant. We contacted with Bowman Consulting, and they provided a third-party review of the applicant's material. Mr. Jonathan Jackson here from Bowman Consulting is here tonight if you all have any questions for him. And the commission recommended approval subject to the 9 conditions, 9 to 0. And tonight also have with us Jeremy here from the Lime Project, who will basically give you an applicant overview of the project.
All right, good evening, Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors. Thank you very much for having us. We also do have some hard copies if anybody would be interested in that for the presentation. Just let us know. Absolutely.
Is that hard copy different from what we already have in our manuals?
It should
No.
be.
Okay, so I may already have it.
Yeah, I'll just give you one just in
Okay.
case.
Okay. Thank you.
I can follow along better on this.
Yeah,
I'm
me
like
too.
you, Ms. Little.
Thank you.
Yes.
Old school.
Old school.
Old school.
Yes, board members, you do have a copy in the
Notebook.
notebook that was presented to you, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Align RNG is a partnership between Dominion Energy and Smithfield Foods. We're turning methane from our nation's hog farms into clean energy for U.S. consumers. It's called Renewable Natural Gas, and it's transforming the future of clean energy and sustainable agriculture. From coast to coast, these projects will power many homes and businesses, in addition to environmental impacts associated with these projects that are equivalent to removing the carbon associated with 300,000 homes. For context, I looked this up not too long ago in the census. So this would be the equivalent of offsetting the carbon footprint of nearly 10% of all the homes in the state of Virginia. Dominion Energy and Smithfield Foods have a long history of supporting Surry County, and this Align project is an extension of that. We are members of the community, and the project will provide environmental and economic benefits to the citizens of Surry. We are excited to bring one of the transformative projects of this partnership to this community. Okay, so this is an overview. How does it work? Renewable natural gas is essentially waste methane that would have otherwise been emitted into the atmosphere through various agricultural or commercial processes. By definition, it removes more greenhouse gases from the atmosphere than it releases when it's burned by the customers at their end use. So looking at this diagram, it starts at the farms where there's currently hog farms and lagoons where the manure goes. And so that breaks down in those lagoons and gets emitted into the atmosphere. It turns into 65% methane, 35% CO2, some H2S, and it's essentially emitted into the atmosphere. So what we'll do with this project is we'll either cover those lagoons or we'll build a new in-ground anaerobic digester to capture that biogas before it's emitted into the atmosphere. We clean it up with a small dehy skid that takes the water out and brings it to a central location through pipelines where it's cleaned, the CO2 and sulfur is removed, so it's pipeline quality, and inserted into the pipeline that goes through the community today. As Horace had mentioned, this project goes across 4 counties in the community: Sussex, Surry, Southampton, and Isle of Wight. We have 20 Smithfield farms that are participating in this project. Those put into a small diameter, low pressure pipeline that's between 2 and 6 inches in diameter and is very low pressure. It's about the same as what you would see in like an air compressor in your garage, moving it to the central location that we're discussing here this evening. At that point, it removes the sulfur and the CO2 and is injected into the pipeline. Okay, another exciting aspect of this project that we talked about is not only will this project bring enough clean energy to power 2,500 homes, the economic benefit to the county is significant. So we had a study done by Chimera Economics that analyzed this project and has projected a yearly increase in revenue to Surry County alone of nearly $250,000 per year. And so that money can go to improving schools, helping those in need, and other essential services. One unique part about this project as well is the environmental benefits. And so for this specific project, it's going to be the equivalent of removing 92,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide from this community every year. And that's like taking 20,000 cars off the road. So think about it like this. That's more than all of the cars that drive by 460 in this community. So this is more than offsets all of that combined. Moving on to the central conditioning facility. This Waverly project is one of 7 projects that Align is either operating or developing in 5 different states. This represents hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in this technology. Raceline, who's building this facility, has installed 13 sites like this over the past 7 years. They're all currently operating. This project will benefit from the vast experience and success of other RNG projects that are currently operating across the country. The picture displayed here is of our Milford, Utah facility that's similar to what's being proposed here. It's been successfully creating renewable natural gas for over a year. This is all contained in a relatively small, less than a half-acre fenced site where the sulfur and carbon dioxide is removed. It's then compressed into the existing natural gas pipeline system on site. The footprint of the equipment itself is even less. It's approximately 1/3 of the 1/2 acre fenced-in area. In terms of safety, features, and processes, the incoming biogas is relatively low safety risk compared to a typical natural gas project. At 15 pounds, it's a low-pressure system, and with the CO2, it's 35% CO2 in the mix, that makes it less explosive in nature. The sulfur is treated or filtered out at 3 different points in the process, which ensures redundancy and safe operations. Additionally, there will be a programmed computer that monitors this facility for many points of operational information, such as pressures, temperatures, and flow rates. It will automatically alarm when outside of normal conditions and shut down the facility if the parameters approach any unsafe conditions. We will also have staff on site to monitor this system, as well as physically monitoring the equipment itself. In terms of community engagement, on this specific project, we've had extensive outreach with county officials and the public. A few examples are engaged with the landowners and county staff for the past 18 months. We've also had at least 6 meetings with county staff to answer questions and improve the specifics of the project. We've had 2 public open houses and a public Q&A session. Okay, moving on. So how does this work? It really comes down to 2 simple functions. First, it goes through an absorption tower that takes out the sulfur. So the way that I like to think about this is it just goes through and there's a media inside and the sulfur attaches itself to the media and then the rest of the gas can go out the other side. So it's similar to if you go to Shoe Carnival and you buy yourself a box of shoes, you know how sometimes you'll see a little packet like of the beads in there. So that absorbs moisture. So it's a similar process like that. As that gas moves out of that tank, it goes into the nanoscale membrane that removes the CO2, and it also can catch any sulfur that may be remaining. This membrane is essentially a nanoscale designed to match the molecular size of the molecules. And so methane can pass through, but carbon dioxide cannot pass through the filter based on size. Once it's separated out, it moves to either a scavenger unit to take away any last sulfur before it goes into the pipeline, or the thermal oxidizer to further treat the end product. Okay, and we do have prepared a little section, just the most common questions that we've seen, as Horace mentioned before, that I'd like to review with you this evening. The first one is the location. So why did we pick this location? In selecting this location, we have evaluated over 10 different sites across an 8-mile study radius from the center of this proposed project, in all directions, including further east of this site. Our goal was to minimize the impact to environmental and cultural resources, as well as meet the project requirements by being located near an existing natural gas pipeline and having main road access. Ultimately, there are favorable qualities to this site, allowing us to minimize the impact to the community in terms of noise, traffic, and other factors that I will share in more detail on subsequent slides. We've worked with and continue to communicate with neighbors near this site, addressing questions and concerns. It is also important to note that there are many who do support the facility in this location. Other alternate sites that have been previously evaluated or suggested for evaluation simply do not have the same level of support, and in addition, do not meet the criteria necessary for this project as shown on this slide. Question number 2 is the access road. So based on feedback from our prior conversations, we've included an overview of the access road plans that we have for this site. In summary, we've taken all of this feedback and we have made accommodations for them, creating an above average, more than adequate design for this site. The road itself will be 20 feet wide, including 10 inches of compacted aggregate on top of 8-inch compacted subgrade to ensure reliable passage of expected traffic, as well as emergency vehicles such as fire trucks traveling side by side if necessary. Finally, the access road entrance has been widened to accommodate large vehicles turning from both directions in and out of Birch Island Road in order to minimize any impacts. Okay, sound. This is a chart showed that we have had a third-party noise expert, Hoover and Keith, model the expected levels during operations of this facility. The results show that detectable noise levels at the 2 homes closest to this facility are estimated at their highest levels to be between 45 and 50 decibels, is categorized as soft or less than that of a quiet office or a normal conversation. Additionally, this assessment assumes that leaves have fallen from the surrounding trees. We wanted to be as conservative as possible in our assessment. And so in seasons where foliage is present or trees that don't lose their leaves, there could be a reduction of as much as 10 decibels from these levels, bringing the estimated noise down to 35 decibels. That would be less than that of a nearby stream, as shown on the chart. Finally, we had our noise experts conduct sound surveys across the proposed location to obtain ambient noise levels at their current state today. These results concluded that background noise was 30 to 35 decibels due to insects, distant traffic, and birds. The sound levels at our facility are therefore similar to noise levels observed today, and as a result, Align is confident that this will not affect the use and enjoyment of the properties in the community. Okay. Traffic. This is a list of the expected traffic for this site. As you can see, it's a relatively low quantity of traffic in the area for this project. So our current design shows about 2 trucks per month. It's going to be 5 trucks per year for the sulfur removal, and the other 17 trucks for maintenance and deliveries. As you can see in the pictures, a typical commercial-sized truck that can easily be accommodated at the site. On a regular day, we'll have 1 to 2 personnel that would access this site for operations, no different than any other residential house in the area. And just as a comparison purpose, just to get an idea of what this would look like, a typical grocery store would receive anywhere from 10 to 30 trucks a month compared to our 2 trucks a month. Okay, and the last question is about the sulfur removal. Sulfur is a non-hazardous solid waste. At this site, It will be collected by a vacuum truck 5 times a year and removed from the site. For some context on that, this will be about 4 tons of sulfur in each truck. And the amount of sulfur produced is similar to what would be used for fertilizer of about 1,600 acres of corn or 1,800 acres of 1,600 acres of cotton or 1,800 acres of corn locally here in the community. Given that small quantity, this will be taken to a landfill for disposal. And the last point, just to show a part per million, is got a graph on the bottom to show you in context how big 1 part per million is. And so in this example, 1 part per million is like a teaspoon in 1,302 gallons of water or some other liquid. And so for this case, we have got an estimate of 20 parts per million that could pass through the filter, which then still can go through the membrane to filter further and finally to the thermal oxidizer. But that compares to something like a diesel truck, which uses ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel and has an allowable sulfur limit of 15 parts per million. Finally, we have 2 redundant filter systems in series to make sure that as the gas goes through the system, that it has a full redundant system to make sure that it never exceeds the acceptable levels. All right. And in conclusion, we have a long-standing relationship here with Surry County and its residents. In addition to the billions of dollars in assets that we operate here, we have consistently worked through issues and come to successful outcomes over the course of our history. We are committed to doing so here and view this as the first step of many to work with the County of Surry and its residents, making this project the best it can be. While some may be hesitant now, we will work tirelessly to minimize unwanted impact and make this project something that the county is proud of. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Excuse me. May I get your name one more time, please?
Yes, Jeremy Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Madam Chair, could Mr. Clark answer a few questions, or is this not the appropriate time?
Sure, this will be the appropriate time for Mr. Clark.
I'm Mike Drury, and I represent the area, the Dendron precinct area there. In fact, I'll just disclose, I think most people know this, I probably live within 3/4 of a mile of this and farm this area, so know the property intimately. Who owns this property now?
So we've gotten an easement for this specific site. So there's someone that we got the easement from there locally.
So you're not purchasing it?
I'm sorry?
You're not purchasing it?
Correct.
So the answer is someone. Well, here's my point. Do you have other alternative sites?
As we discussed, we've looked at a lot of alternatives, and this one is the best site based on the criteria that I presented.
Is it the best site or the only site you could get a landowner to agree for you to lease? That's my concern.
Yes, it's a site that we have an agreement, but there's also a lot of other factors. If I could move to, I can go back for you. So the location. So it truly is trying to minimize the impact to the environment, cultural resources. It needs to be close to a pipeline. We do need to get an agreement. So we don't use eminent domain or anything. We talk to the community. We find a place where it's amenable to them. And so this site, the owners were supportive of it. The owners around it are supportive of it in terms of easements to get the pipelines to and from it. Yes, sir.
What about the residents around it?
There are a lot of residents in favor. Yes, sir.
The reason I asked that is that I was sitting here counting, and again, Oakview Farms, I farmed for a long time and very familiar with it. And when it was sold, it was split up, and probably the last 20 years, this is pretty dense for Surry County. In other words, there's probably 30-some homes within half to 3/4 of a mile of this site, do you know how many miles of pipeline is in Surry? The transmit, I call it the Columbia Gas Line, it's something else now. It's pretty extensive. I can see, and don't mean to be putting you on the spot, I just got a lot of concerns. Because I could, if you would sit down with some of us locals, we probably could find a site that doesn't have 30 homes around it. You can go down this pipeline through, it comes through my farm. And probably a mile away and you get away from the homes. And it's just a concern because I have not, you know, I know there may be support, but many of these landowners around this have called me with concerns. And I understand, in rural America, we live here because of the quietness, and there's a whole lot of difference between a decibel reading in a city landscape and a country landscape. Remarkably, I don't know how many miles we can hear a radio, but I've heard, I could hear clearly church singing, and the closest church is Rocky Hawk, which is 4 or 5 miles away. My point of it is that I've also seen decibel readings on solar transformers. And so I visited one of these sites, and I go there, and the decibel reading is low. But if I had to lay in my bed a half a mile away and hear 25 to 30 decibels when we are used in a low hum, it would greatly bother me. And I have a concern that I'm looking here, and you know, as many times at my house, I don't think you'd get many decibel readings. It irritates us when a plane comes over. Sometimes it's so quiet. But so I'm concerned about the background noise, even though you say it's only 30 to 40 decibels. You got a lot of houses there, so I'm concerned that this is just the only piece of property you could get a landowner to agree to. When if you would sit down with some of the locals and let us look at a topo map with y'all, because I'm supportive. I've been in the hog business with this. I have done methane projects with Continental Grain Company that Smithfield Food owns. And I would think there would be, I just don't see the effort to try to accommodate a less dense area. This is one of the more denser areas around the transmission line. And the two concerns that I've had no one to call me in support, none. And have talked to representatives, have talked to Virginia Powell and asked them to do that. And nobody's called me. Everything has been, and it's two concerns, major, odor, noise. And I haven't had that. Again, I'm supportive of the project. Just this location is awful. And I'm going to vote in favor of the residents that I represent, and all of them have called me and said, I have concerns that haven't been addressed. I even asked, I said, well, can you take some of these citizens to some of these locations, fly them to Utah? I have a good friend, Rob Adams, that put in that Milford, and there's not a whole lot in Milford, Utah. That's the reason they went there. So regardless of what you say, awful, awful site.
Yeah, I understand. And we've worked, again, you know, it's been an 18-month process. We've worked tirelessly. We've looked over an 8-mile radius, so that's 16 miles across the pipeline, worked with everybody, trying to look at all of these factors, taking it very seriously.
Come and meet with me and sit down with a topo map and let me get some locals. We can probably find something better, I think. And I think everybody I've talked to is supportive of the project, just not where there's 30 homes.
And I still feel confident, you know, in this area back where we've got some wooded protection, that this will certainly be more out of sight and out of mind than you may think as well.
Would you put it in the conditions that the decibel readings are above X, that we could close the project down?
Well, it kind of depends on where you're at too. We're talking about
Anyway,
these two
I've expressed
specific-
my concerns. It's an awful site. And again, I don't see the citizen support, and I wish y'all would have gotten that. And
understand.
thank you. And again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's just, I know the area, and I know the pipeline, and there's less dense areas. And that's it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drury. At this time, thank you also for the presentation. At this time, we're going to open the floor for public comment, and we would ask that you would come in 3 minutes, no more than 3 minutes, and express your concerns or your support for the project. And if you live in the area, I think it would be beneficial to RNG if they can have that information when you do your presentation. Thank you. You may approach, and give your name and your district, please.
Madam Chairperson, congratulations.
Thank you so
Board,
much.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
My name's Tommy Lindsay. I live at 347 Burt Place Lane. And that wonderful picture he just had up, that triangle property at the bottom, that's mine. Nobody's been out there doing any decibel readings. So where they got their information from, who knows? Little background. 1980, I joined the United States Marine Corps. Spent 5 years in the Marine Corps. I spent 25 years with VDOT. I've administered over $3 billion in heavy highway civil construction contracts. I was responsible for every project at the ferry from 1990 to 2005. I'm a project management professional. Right now, I have engineers and people work for me responsible for over $2 billion of construction in the Commonwealth right this minute. In battle, we say every battle plan is good till the first shot. In construction, we say every plan's good till execution. These are brilliant people. They put together a really nice program. And this is something that can help the environment. It's the wrong spot. They move right down the gas line to Proctor's Bridge. Smithfield Foods already owns the property. They don't have to get an easement. Look at Google Earth. I counted 75 homes in a half-mile radius of this site. At Proctor's Bridge, two. In the state code of Virginia, the Board of Supervisors, one of your responsibilities, one of the dictates given to you is to protect the safety of the public. It's to look out for your constituents. I'm Michael's constituent. I'm not yours. I can only beg and plead that y'all do the right thing. In the invocation, he asked God to give you strength. He asked God to give you leadership. In 1972, we stuck our toe in the door and we took a chance on nuclear power, and that worked. Job well done. This is one-year-old technology. In 1972, this country had been operating nuclear reactors for about 31 years. It wasn't new technology. We knew what we were getting into when we built Surry. This is one-year-old technology. Plans are good till they start. Once that's built, we have no way to get out of it. Once they exceed 40 decibels, we have no way to get out of it. I can hear Michael talking in his yard. I don't like that. I didn't move to the country to hear people talk. I don't want to hear a 40 decibel hum. They talked about the trees. That's real nice. The picture they showed you, real good. Mr. Pritzlanger on the corner of Burt Place Lane and Route 31 is currently clearing that. Every piece of timber there is eligible to be logged, and they cannot stop it because it is on private property. That screen is there today. Will it be there tomorrow? I doubt it. Another landowner is going to want to cash in with the timber company. And then their log's going to be gone. And they can talk about the decibels with leaves, without. When the damn trees are gone, there's nothing to stop anything. And there's nothing they can do to stop people from logging the property. The right place to put this is where you have the least impact on the public. And that right place is Proctor's Bridge. They're less than a half a mile from the gas line. So yeah, they got to run a longer line there. They don't have to run a line from Proctor's Bridge because they're already there. So now they only have to run 3 lines. When they keep saying their plan, it's their cost. That's why their plan is right. It's their cost.
Thank you.
So do we save their money on our back? I beg
Thank you.
not
We
to.
appreciate your thoughts on the project and your expertise on that project. Thank you.
Madam Chair, could it get his
Yes.
name again? I didn't get his name when he came up.
Tommy Lindsay.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Lindsay, you don't hear me saying bad things, do you? You don't hear me saying bad things at your house, do you?
Only when my music's loud.
I got you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Any other comments? You're welcome to come up and give your name, and you have 3 minutes. And your concerns or your support.
Mike
Project.
Edison, Denver and Blackwater District. I'm in Mike's district. The Smithfield Foods and Dominion project is a feel-good thing for green energy. Basically, smoke and mirrors, a dog and pony show. It's political. I have photographs here of the spray heads at the Proctor's Bridge site. These spray heads are less than 100 feet from a Blackwater River. To keep the lagoons from overflowing, they have to spray onto the spray fields. When you pressurize it and depressurize it through the spray head, methane comes out again. That's why I say this reduction in greenhouse gases is a dog and pony show. There's a H2S involved. H2S and rain creates acid rain. If you bubble H2S through water, you make sulfuric acid. I doubt that any of the Dominion folks or the Smithfield Foods folks want their kids breathing the output of this so-called concentration site. 250 ppm of H2S, you start developing blinding headaches, blurred vision, and staggering. 500 ppm, you lose the ability to stand. At 750 ppm, that's parts per million, it paralyzes the lungs, and within a short period of time, you die. So we're dealing with toxic chemicals. No matter what they say about filters, any man-made system can fail. I've heard nothing about sirens when the level comes up on the H2S, or are they going to give all the locals pagers when there's an accident or something goes wrong over there? I was a nuke in the Navy, and I know a little bit about project management. And I built 2 ships in Korea and Thailand. And pardon me, when something smells fishy, it is fishy. So if you look closely at the Proctor's Bridge Farm, and you look at the spray nozzles, and you look how close they are to the Blackwater River, and it's on a slope. So what you're spraying gradually runs into the river, that goes to Zuni, that goes to Franklin, that goes to the Albemarle Sound. So nobody says much about it, but you guys are polluters.
Mr. Eggleston, your 3 minutes is up.
Yeah.
And we appreciate your comments and thank you. And I'm sure RNG is putting down your comments so that they can address them. Next person.
If you would, these are aerial photographs of each of the farms, and my comments about those are there
Thank
for
you.
you. And this is a copy of what I have to say because I think I'm going to exceed 3 minutes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, if you had an extra copy to give to a line, it would be appreciated, I'm sure, by them.
Okay. I strenuously object to a line RNG building their central conditioning facility where they want to build it off of Highway 31. Having downloaded and printed maps of 5 hog farms in the vicinity, I see numerous locations on each of these farms where a facility could be built. But I am in absolute agreement with Mr. Lindsay that Proctor's Bridge is the right place to build this thing. Space is available, and on page 11 of this county's staff report and assessment are staff comments, and this disturbed me greatly. It is said, there is a minimal number of residential use parcels surrounding the site. The current mature vegetation is anticipated to screen the project. Homes and families here, because they are few in number, are reduced to residential use parcels, and a small stand of trees and brush are the anticipation of screening them from this project. Because these residents are quiet, they have voiced objections and questions about this project for several weeks now since this has gone on.
Ms. Eggleston, thank you. Appreciate it.
On page 6 of this conditional use permit, on the weaknesses, there are 2 items that are really concerning. And those 2 weaknesses are emergency hazards for incidents are unknown. No projects for comparison within the state of Virginia. Nothing to compare any type of exposure, any type of noise, any type of anything. There's no comparison there. I absolutely believe that the weaknesses of this project outweigh the strengths of it. And those 2 very short weaknesses say volumes. Covering the lagoons to control emissions is at least questionable. Emergency hazards unknown. What kind of emergencies are they talking about? What is anticipated? No existing projects in our state for comparison. Basically, this proposed project is an experiment with the Lindsay and Lober and other families that are right there at the site, guinea pigs.
Mrs. Eggleston, excuse me, you are up. Your time is up now, your 3 minutes. So thank you. And again, if you would share that information with RNG, they would be happy to take that from you.
Proctor's Bridge is the place to put this facility. There are too many homes, or too much exposure here.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. My name is Journey Ketchum. I represent the Dendron District. I here am as well to oppose this RNG project. You as board members have a difficult position, and I hope that you all hear your community's concerns and take them to heart tonight. This all sounds great, but what if you're the person who lives next door to all of this? There's numerous effects to the wildlife. The noise alone would be atrocious, in my opinion. I looked it up, 50 decibels sounds like it is a quiet conversation, and I don't want to hear a quiet conversation constantly at my home. Other effects would be the runoff damage to the wetlands, air quality, the odors, fumes, vibrations. Do I need to go on? There's just several impacts that this would have. All of this is going to be in a closely populated area. I agree that it needs to be moved as well. This proposal for the project has many requirements and standards that it says that it's going to meet, such as 690,000 MCFs, the number of trucks, the certain amount of fumes it's going to put off, noise, etc. Who's going to police that? I just think that once this is approved, there are no measures in place to go back once the damage has been done. Simply put, please make sure that you make the right decision. Your community is counting on you. Not all money is good money.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening, Abram
Good
Ketchum.
evening.
I've voiced my questions multiple times in front of y'all, and none of them have really been answered, especially to my liking. There's multiple environmental concerns. I spoke with one of the ladies at their meeting, and she informed me that they did find endangered bats on the property where they're going to have the site, but it was okay to cut the trees down that they inhabited once they had finished nesting. Multiple endangered species, maybe salamanders on my property, canebrake rattlesnakes. It's not the right spot. You're looking, Alliant RNG's biogas conditioning facility will bring constant noise, pollution to a quiet, peaceful, highly populated community. Just for comparison, their facility in North Carolina will emit 60 tons of pollution a year, according to the air draft permit submitted by Division of Air Quality. That's 50 tons of sulfur dioxide and 10 tons of carbon monoxide a year. the quality of gas that's arriving to the facility depends on the age of the animals, the weather, and whether or not they can use it. So they might have to flare it off. They might be flaring off, who knows how much gas into the atmosphere at that point because they can't use it. They don't tell you about these things. They're coming out with say they go out with a vacuum truck to remove the media. Nobody say anything about the noise pollution from the vacuum truck. I've heard vacuum trucks before. They're loud. They're real loud. So you're looking at that. And then the wetlands. If you look at the map that they showed of their site, and you've got the streams right there, that all flows back into the Blackwater River, every last bit of it. They're wanting to bore pipelines next to my property, which is going across multiple natural springs. And I asked them what they could do about that, and I talked to Colin Olness with Dominion Energy, and his response was they would do a flow study before and after the project. And I said, well, what happens if the flow is dissipated from the project? His response was that they would get a tanker truck out there if they had to. So they're going to put a truck on my property and dump water into a stream that they've messed up by boring a pipeline? That makes no sense to me. It's the wrong place, totally the wrong place. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Madam Chair,
Good evening.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, Kevin Monahan. I live in the Carsley District. And I'm here tonight to support this project. Smithfield and Dominion have a extensively proven responsible track record in what they have done for this county, and I'm confident they will continue to do for this county. I think it's a right move, right direction to go for renewable energy and for the agricultural production of the county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Any other comments?
Can I have one last comment? I appreciate his comments, but this isn't in Carsley, it's in Blackwater. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, we will consider this public hearing closed for this evening. And hopefully and prayerfully, whatever is decided, it will be a good decision and that all will be healthy. Thank you all. Now we will have comments from our board members. We want to start with Mr. Elliott. Would you like to have any comments?
Not at this time, Ms. Little.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Drury?
Yeah, I'd like to see a map of the whole project and some proof why this can't be moved somewhere else to a less dense area. And thank you.
Thank you. And I think they are listening, so
Ms. Little,
you need that map.
I would like to make a comment in line with Mr. Drury said. I do believe it is a good project, but I think the main issue is the location, and we don't want to say no if we can be able to meet the criteria that will make everybody feel comfortable with. So we would like to give them an opportunity to address these different issues, and then I think the board will be in favor of it at that time.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I agree with Mr. Elliott's comment.
Thank you. Mr. Howell?
Madam Chair, I'm in line with the comments that have been said. If we can look at the feasibleness of isolating the project away from the citizens to preserve the health and the welfare of the citizens that are impacted in the current proposed thing, I think that this project does have a good traction and could be something that is suitable. As I've heard, we gave, although we gave, it was said that we started nuclear in the 1970s and it had been 31 years. If you don't start anywhere, you'll never get anywhere. And so I believe that if Alliant RNG can take in what the citizens have said tonight and to look at the possibility, it may be hard, it may be rolling up their sleeves to try to get an agreement in another location, but if they can, I can see how this project could align well with renewable energy, and I could see supporting it.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Mr. Calhoun?
I have no comments at this moment.
Okay, thank you. And I have no comments at this moment. I have been to several of the meetings that Align have given, and I appreciate all that they have done. And I don't know if the persons who are speaking tonight came out to any of those meetings, because I think if we could have probably addressed it at that time, and I think, how many meetings have you had, public meetings? 2, and then the Planning Commission meeting was 3. So there has been information put out that, I'm sorry that we're at this point and we can't move further because of not coming out earlier. I don't know. But thank you, and I do feel like hopefully that Align R&G, that is, can work on these types of issues, especially the location, so, for the project.
Would like to see just a map of the study radius that we've looked at so far, just to get an idea. Would that be helpful?
For the board members tonight, I don't, maybe, board members, what do you think?
The map's too small. I like the project, but I really would like to get together with RNG and other citizens around that know the area and look at a map. And look, we really don't, as locals, mind. I mean, when neighbors come to me and got these concerns, I want to see them resolved. And we also don't mind going talking to a landowner if we have a great place, if you understand me, and try to help. So.
Mr. Drury, I just gave her a map of every hog farm location.
Right. Understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have closing remarks by staff. Mr. Wade, you're ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. I apologize if we're
No, you're
taking,
No, you're
but
fine. You're fine.
we want to hear all the issues, and so sometimes you just have to, stand still and listen and go from there.
I think some of the concerns that you heard tonight were some of the same concerns that we've heard at the planning commission meetings and some of the meetings before that that Align has addressed. I don't think it's a question of did they address it. I almost feel like it's the question of is what they address acceptable. That's where I feel that I do feel as though they address the concerns, but is what they address acceptable to the board.
Thank you.
So.
Okay. So are there any other comments that you have? I know we have the strengths and weaknesses, and we have the, I think, the recommendation.
The recommendation from the planning commission was 9-0 for approval. And again, those concerns, the planning commission felt as though Align did wholeheartedly meet those concerns, but at that time, it's just a matter of information being presented. But they did have a lot of community input about those projects too. So, and again, if you all have any questions, technically, we do have our third-party engineer, Mr. Jonathan Jackson, who's here tonight too. So if you have any other additional questions about some things that I might not be able to cover from a staff standpoint, he's basically almost like an extension of staff on the technical side. So if you have any questions in that regards, he's here.
Thank you. And Mr. Jackson, if you would like to come up and perhaps you can help us out a little bit on a lot of what we've heard tonight and the issues that the citizens have.
Good evening. I would certainly be willing to help.
Right.
And I'd would probably be best suited to help try to answer any questions you might have. I don't have a prepared statement one way or the other.
Okay. Anyone have questions from Mr. Jackson? Is that what you're offering?
Looking at the maps of the hog farms, all of them, basically the Mumford farms and the Proctor's Bridge farms, the sites are huge. The spray fields are even more than that. I want to know why you insist on putting this concentrated filter site in a populated area instead of an industrial site that's Proctor's Bridge and the Mumford Farms. I mean, it's huge properties, nobody around. So why do you have to put it in a populated neighborhood?
Understood, of course. And as you may be aware, this site was brought to the county for a conditional use permit. And that was just this one site only. The county was asked to look and review this site and not to pick other sites. So the only site that has come before us as the county is this one site.
Madam Chair, this is not a,
This is not open to public. He's addressing the board at this time.
No, you asked, did anybody have
To the board.
To the board.
to the board.
You didn't say that.
No, we didn't. And I would state that he suggested that he could, if there were any answers and you had a question, he could help to answer your particular question. But due to time, at this time, we will close our meeting. And then the board will have its discussions and make its decision. Thank you. Okay, at this time, Mr. Wade, I don't think have anything else
No,
to say.
he does
So
not.
we've actually closed in remarks by staff. Board members, we are closing the remarks. Staff has presented its case, it's presented the recommendation from the Planning Commission. So now I need to know what is the pleasure of the board.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we will table this item for further discussion by board members and bring it back after we're able to talk to RNG and discussion of the board before we take a vote.
Thank you. Board members, you've heard the recommendation coming from Mr. Elliott. Are there any other recommendations, or would you like to vote on that recommendation that we would not do a decision tonight, but meet with RNG and the citizens and then come back for another meeting?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Mr. Calhoun?
Ms. Little, if we're having a vote on that, I need to abstain from voting tonight, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Howard?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and myself, I'm fine with that. I think we do need to listen to all, and then hopefully and prayerfully we all can come on an agreement of how we both can be enriched, and the citizens will be happy. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, for the purpose of the voting, so that was a motion to delay the decision of the board tonight and come back at a later time. So I believe if that was put in the form of motion, all voted in favor with the exception of Mr. Calhoun, who abstained.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you
Madam
so
Clerk.
much.
Exactly.
All righty. Yes, the next item will be on the agenda. If we can do the presentation of the audit report from Robinson Farmer Cox.
Oh, great.
Okay.
We always look forward to this time of the year to see that we're okay. Mr. Cox?
Yes, Mr. Paul Lee of Robinson Farmer Cox and Associates will present the audit findings for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Mr. Lee.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Lee.
It's my pleasure to be here with you tonight to present the audit. I think you received the
Yes.
audit report in your package. I would say, as in prior years, that you're still receiving an unqualified opinion on your financial statements as a whole. That's a good thing. The opinion's on page 2. I don't want you to try to find it, but just that's there. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control. That was page 156. No federal compliance issues. This year was a different kind of a federal compliance audit because we had all the CARES Act money that needed to be audited. Next year, I'm sure the ARPA money will reach up there, and maybe the ESSER money that the schools have gotten. Oh, yeah, okay. But that, given that, all the compliance issues came out fine. You did, interestingly enough, your federal revenue or your federal expenditures really didn't go up as much as you would think in this year. But in FY20, we had the reimbursement for the marina, which was about $1 million. And so it kind of offsets between the marina and the CARES Act. So normally I think you would have seen a large increase in this year, but because of that, you didn't. At the end of the year, we had a $10 million uncommitted general fund balance, which and that was on page 15, but that that's 25 or more percent of your total budget. And so that really says something about your economic health, that you're good there. The current tax collection rate, and this is really just only 1 year, that's on page 146, but you're at 98.72%. I always like to point those out to the boards as they get into discussion with their budgets, just to know how much a levy you can expect to collect in a year when you assess that. Haven't issued a management letter. We did have an exit when we finished our audit. There's a couple little things. We discussed closing of the GL when the bank recs were completed and wanting a little more documentation on building permit fees. But that was it on that. I think overall the audit went very well. It's just like I said, it was unusual here and it was as everywhere else just because of the increased amount of federal revenue in the different programs this year. Other than that, I would answer any questions you may have. That's really what I wanted to present to you tonight.
Thank you. Board members, questions? No? Questions, board members? I am not hearing any, so I have none. It sounds like we're fiscally sound.
Yes,
that's what is important to me, and I know it is to the other board members, so thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I want to thank staff for the job that they continue to do to keep us on that track.
Exactly right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Yes. Thank you, Madam Chairman. And yes, absolutely, in absence of Ms. Wendell, who is not here, who obviously worked very closely with our auditors, and also to all the departments represented to the school system and social services, who play a large role in making sure that our audit report is successful each year, so, and all of our department heads. So we are happy to report that we do believe that this audit as well conforms and will be the recipient of the Governor Finance Officers Association Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting.
Yeah, we look forward to that every year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The next thing on our agenda, we got another public hearing? Oh, okay, so we've covered all of that up there, okay. All right, new business, we have the Surry County Economic Development Authority request for compensation.
Yes, and
Thank
Mr.
you.
Yodi Jabri, Economic Development Director, will present the board this item.
Good evening, Chairman. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Board members and Ms. Rollins. Tonight, the Surry County Economic Development Authority asks the Board of Supervisors to approve the compensation of directors per the Economic Development Authority meeting that was held on November 18th. Previously, the board voted that the Economic Development Board could receive $75 from the Economic Development Fund. They are asking now that be approved in of $150 per EDA meeting. Compensation will be withdrawn from the EDA budget. Compensation will begin for the 2022 calendar year and continue until the Board of Supervisors wishes to amend. In accordance with Section 15.24904 within the Code of Virginia, Economic Development Authority directors shall receive no salary but may be compensated such amount per regular special or committee meeting, or per each official representation as may be approved by the appointing authority, not to exceed $200 per meeting. And I believe we attached what other boards and commissions receive for compensation as well. So tonight, there's a decision of whether or not to approve the EDA request to receive $150 in compensation per EDA meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, you've heard the request coming from our EDA. Discussion?
I have a question. So, Mr. Jabri, thank you for the presentation. Did I understand that at one point in time, at some point historically, the EDA members could receive $75? Was that ever enacted, or it was never enacted?
It was never inactive.
And now the request tonight before this board is to approve that figure at $150.
The increase, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I understood the figures.
Other board members?
Yeah, Madam Chair, and I'm sorry, I didn't follow that, because I had the same question as Mr. Howell. So the $75 was never paid, enacted? I couldn't quite hear that with a mask.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to provide some clarification on that. So I think the question is, and Ms. Powell, you can chime in to assist. I think the question is whether or not the Board of Supervisors at one point ever approved the $75. This could have been years ago, and as of now, nobody really knows exactly if the Board of Supervisors took official action. We thought it would be best tonight just to go ahead and have the board take that action rather than trying to funnel through minutes from years ago. I can tell you that when the EDA was reactivated, they did receive the compensation of $75 for those who elected to receive the compensation. But the premise was that we were not ever sure whether or not at any point in time whether or not the board ever approved the $75.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember.
Yeah.
I have another question, if I may, Madam Chair. My question is, what has stipulated moving from the $75 to the $150 per meeting?
This was the decision of the EDA board.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. So if looking at the boards and commissions' current compensation that is attached to this, I just have a concern that if the EDA is going to ask for a double increase, or all these other boards, there's a good possibility they may come back. And it sounds like the other board commissions, that comes out of the county funds, whereas your request of $150 comes out of the EDA budget. These other commissions, I believe, Ms. Rollins and Ms. Chair, that would come out of the board's budget to pay.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Calhoun. Yes, that is the request.
Right.
Yes, so previously, the monies that were paid to the EDA members were coming out of the EDA funds.
Understand?
Yes, sir.
But looking at the other boards and commissions attachment, again,
Yes, sir.
Architectural Review Board, $25 current compensation.
Yes, sir.
If they came to us and asked for an increase, the county out of their fund pays these other boards and commissions excluding the EDA.
That is correct, sir. That is correct.
So could this potentially have a snowball effect and affect our budget? Possibly. I just want to point that out.
Yes, sir. The request is for the Board of Supervisors tonight to make a decision to approve the $75 or the other amount that's being requested by the EDA. So that is the request for the board tonight.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I have a question. I'm along the lines with Mr. Calhoun in understanding that if we start this, then this could trickle off into more. However, it is me being a numbers person, I don't know how I can make a decision to approve a salary amount when I don't know how much the EDA fund has in it, and what happens when that EDA fund is depleted. where does the salary, well, not the salary, because the code said they cannot get a salary, but the stipend, where would that stipend come from then?
Attached are the EDA minutes in which the treasurer's report is within there.
Thank you, Mr. Jobber.
Mr. Jarvie, how many members are on the board
Seven.
that receives a stipend? How many members?
They would have to elect on it in who is going to receive the stipend or not. They can personally elect whether they're going to receive it or not, because this would have to be claimed on their taxes as well.
And there's no specific reasons for the increase except for the board has asked for, the EDA has asked for this increase?
Correct.
No justification for, we're now meeting twice a month, or, whatever
The meeting schedule has not been approved for this year. So the board hasn't, approved the meetings for this year. But as I know of now, I don't, perceive any increased meetings required. And the current budget is $69,594
That's your current funding.
for the EDA.
And currently, how many members are in there? You don't know.
7.
7 as I see it right here.
7?
So 7 times $150, that's $1,050. I'm sorry, I'm a numbers person.
Times 12.
I'm a numbers
I mean,
person,
that's
so
$12,000 a year. I mean, if you met every month.
Right.
Nothing in my purse, nothing has changed over the past years. No, sorry. That's just my questions. My concerns and questions, excuse me.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
If I could,
Surry?
say, this issue, not the EDA, but how we compensate our boards and commissions has come up several times since I've been on the board, and I know you've seen it too.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we've ever really addressed it as to what's fair and what's not. I don't know what y'all think, but my preference would be for, Ms. Rollins, I hate to give you more to do, but some staff member kind of see what other localities are paying all the commissions and seeing if we need to adjust it for, I'd rather do it as a whole for everyone. And it may have to wait till next fiscal year, and with your recommendation, Ms. Administrator,
Yes,
as to what our budget can handle. But I'd rather see us address it as a whole.
that is fine.
I
And
don't know what y'all think.
I'm in line with Mr. Drury. I think if we're going to address an increase for the EDA, then we need to look at all of our boards and commissions and do it all at one time.
I am in agreement with that too.
Okay. Mr. Calhoun is shaking his head up and down, and I'm going to shake my head up and down, and yes, that's our recommendation from the Board of Supervisors, as stated by Mr. Troy.
So, Madam Chair, I don't know, and Ms. Powell, you can tell me, should we make a motion to table this until we can get further? Okay, so.
May I, Chairman? Regarding the compensation report for the VGR region, Colonial Heights EDA does not get paid. Petersburg does not get paid. Prince George, currently their members do not get paid. Dinwiddie receives $125 for the treasurer, and for everyone else, $100 per meeting. Hopewell, no, and Sussex, yes, but I do not know the current amount.
Yeah, just for clarification, I was talking about all the commissions, not just.
the EDA,
Oh,
okay.
okay, so I'm going to go ahead, Madam Chair, and I'm going to move that we table this issue until we can get some baseline data on all boards and commissions in our surrounding localities, such that we can come back at a later point and look at this in totality of all of our boards and commissions in the county.
Okay, all right.
And I would like to add to that, if I could, to find justification for that increase.
Okay.
I just made a
Second.
motion.
I'd like to make a motion to
You gotta
provide justification.
second.
Oh,
Second the motion?
Second.
I was making the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I was making the motion.
I wanted to add to it.
Thank you for the motion and the second. Mr. Elliott?
Second motion.
No, are you in approval or, we have the second.
You have a second? Aye.
Mr. Drury?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jabri. And I also want to commend you on the minutes that were sent to the board members. I've never had those before. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, I know we are all over this agenda, but we have public hearings we need to finish.
Okay. We're all over the agenda, so just please have patience with us tonight.
The relocating of the polling place. in the
Okay.
Baker's Castle district.
Our next public hearing will be for the relocating polling place in the Bacon Castle District.
Madam Chair, do you mind if you go to appointments, keeping with the agenda?
Appointments?
Yes.
Yeah. Is the next item?
Oh,
Oh, okay. I thought we had kind of said that we wouldn't do that.
No, this is,
Oh.
we were
Oh,
talking about.
for a previous that should have already had an appointment, and you have it for
I
tonight?
got it, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I don't know if anybody else,
Board members, you've heard the request
I think
coming
I've got
from
the last
Mr.
appointment.
Drury.
so. And I had well, I guess it's a recommendation to the Circuit Court for Board of Zoning Appeals. It's Dr. Jeremiah Williams. I think I see him sitting there if he hasn't run away from my recommendation on that, but I recommend Dr. Jeremiah Williams be recommended to the Circuit Court for appointment.
Okay. Board members, you've heard the request coming from Mr. Drury for the appointment to the board of, the BZA board, which will go to the, judge. And so, what is your pleasure for that appointment? Do we have a motion to have that appointment sent to the courts to be approved? And that person would be Mr. Jeremiah Williams.
Madam Chair, I make the motion to, for the appointment of Jeremiah Williams to the BZA Board.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been motion and second. All those in favor, starting with Mr. Howell?
Aye.
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 Hearing no nays, ayes have it. Mr. Williams, your name will be presented to the judge for approval. Thank you for your service.
I think you do a background check too. If you,
Oh.
if that's gonna be a problem, let us know. Madam Chair,
Are there any others?
I just hate to interrupt, but, and my apologies to the public and to the board too, but I've got a legal issue that I've got a little after 9 conference call on, so I'm gonna have to vacate y'all at this time, so.
Oh, okay.
If y'all don't mind, then thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you.
I got a client that may
Be
not
safe.
like it if I don't
All right, we understand that. Thank you.
do, and thank y'all and happy holidays and
Same to you, Mr.
cheers to
Drury.
you.
Thank you. All righty. All right, we were under the polling place for Bacon's Castle. And that's a public hearing. Ms. Powell is going to do our presentation. Thank you.
I do that every time.
That's-
Every time. Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. Happy New Year to all of you. In your packet is an ordinance relocating the polling place in Bacon's Castle from Mount Nebo Baptist Church to Bacon Castle Baptist Church. As outlined in the ordinance, the Bacon's Castle Baptist Church is where people have been voting over the past year or so. That location has turned out to be the better location for several reasons. For an example, the Bacon's Castle Baptist Church allows for more social distancing. It's ADA accessible, has better lighting, and so it's the recommendation of the staff and the county registrar that polling location be changed from Mount Nebo Baptist Church to Bacon's Castle Baptist Church. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Board members, questions?
Have none.
I have none.
Ms. Little, are you okay with that? That's your district.
I am very okay with it. I'm not feeling slighted at all. We've had it at our church for many years, and it's been, you know, it's served. My church has served the community very well, and Bacon's Castle wasn't there, wasn't even existing back when it started, so it's not bad to have a change.
Okay.
One for the better, so. If we could get a motion, you want a motion at this time? Are you ready?
It's a public hearing.
Okay, all right, sorry. Anyone, public hearing is open?
Good evening, Robert Chandler, Bacon's Castle District. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations. And you also, sir, congratulations. I'm very much in support of this as an election official for many years now. I have worked in both locations, and I'm in full agreement with the recommendations because of the distancing and the lighting, and there's a lot more accessibility, ease of accessibility for people voting. I spent many a time at Mount Nebo, and it was great, but I agree with the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'm not hearing or seeing anyone approaching. So at this time, board members, do you have any questions or comments? Mr.
No
Drew?
comments.
Mr. Elliott? Okay, if not, then we will close this public hearing. And at this time, we will, I hear no comments from the board, so I think we're ready for a vote. So the chair would entertain a motion to change, well, staff is coming back. Ms. Danielle is going to finish us out, or you?
Oh, no, I don't have any additional comments. I'm up next, so I'm just,
Well, I make a
just
motion
taking
that
my
we
spot.
Approve the relocation of the Bacon Castle District polling place from Mount Nebo to Bacon's Castle Baptist Church.
I second the motion.
Okay, it's been motion and second, and thank you, Mr. Elliott and Mr. Howell. All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? No opposed, so motion carried. The new polling place will be the Bacon's Castle Baptist Church for my district, Bacon's Castle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like me to go to the next one?
Yes.
Okay. So we're, again, on the election issue, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. The second public hearing is an ordinance to keep the election districts as they are. We talked about this, I believe, at the last meeting. Excuse me. As a result of the 2020 census, the Planning District Commission has reviewed the numbers, the ideal population going forward, at least for the next 10 years, is 1321 in each district. That does meet the standard deviation that's allowed per code. And so the Supreme Court actually late last month entered an order with the new lines, and so the county registrar has also looked at the new lines, and it doesn't impact the county too much, meaning that the lines that the county already has can remain as is. And so it's the it's the request or the recommendation that the board adopt the ordinance that's before it, where it just keeps the districts as they have been, and it also just outlines the numbers in each district and what the deviation beside it.
Thank you.
Here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? We now open this for the audience, for anyone that have questions or comments about the redistricting. You may approach the podium.
Diane Cheek, Surry District. I was wondering if there was any consideration given to trends of growth within the different districts in making this decision on whether to change or not. I understand that we're within the guidelines, but and also considering how our county is growing demographically, are we looking at those types of things as we consider this as we go forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on redistricting? I'm not hearing any or seeing anyone approach. Board members?
I have no comments.
I don't have any, so we'll close the session for the public comments at this time. I'm not hearing any questions from my board members. Ms. Powell, Mr. Elliott?
No questions.
I don't have any questions. There was a question, I don't know if Ms. Powell can address that at this time.
I can do my best to answer that question. So there have been, as it's written in your ordinance, there are numbers that show where the population has increased, where the population has decreased, and that is within the standard deviation. As I'm not sure I completely understand Ms. Cheek's question as to whether or not that was taken into consideration. The numbers are considered. They have to be in order to redraw or decide how the lines should be drawn. I can say that when determining districts and drawing them, there are certain guidelines that have to be followed. The districts have to be contiguous, compact, substantially equal in number, which is what we have here, not solely based on race, and it has to meet the deviation. And so those are the main factors that are taken into consideration when deciding when to draw the lines. And the lines that Surry County has right now and have had meet those guidelines. And so it's, again, the recommendation that the lines stay as is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you answered the question. Ms. Cheek?
That's good information. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we can close this public hearing. I think the board has already spoken. And thank you, board members, and thank you, Karen.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we will retain the established election districts and precincts in line with our 2020 census data.
Second.
It's been moved in second that we will keep the alignment the same as they have been for the previous period. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Powell.
We got all through the public hearings.
Oh, good. Not that I mind them, we have to do them. Okay, we're at,
County Administrator's report.
oh, okay, we got to you. Okay. At this point, we really had a lot on our agenda tonight, and we thank you for your patience. We're down to our county administrator's report, so at this time, we'll turn the podium over to our county administrator.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman, and again, congratulations to your appointment and to the Vice Chairman, Mr. Howell. I do look forward to working with you all as we get into 2022. I don't have a lot to say tonight, and especially due to the hour, but what you do have for your information tonight is just a copy of the 2021 State of the County Address. And I just want to briefly mention, board members and public, is that, 2021, I do think that the county has moved forward in a very positive direction. A lot has been accomplished by our dedicated team of employees, and this is one of the things that we are most proud of as a county, when we can look at the mission statement and the core values that have been established by the board and be able to have our work in line with what those missions and values are as a board. So I want to say that our team have worked very hard in 2021, albeit of all the challenges as it relates to the pandemic and other challenges of local governments, inability to be able to retain certain staff, and it's just not a Surry County problem, but it is a problem that a lot of us are facing in terms of local government challenges. But albeit we have done a fine job, an excellent job. The 2021 State of the County Address, you do have it in your board packet has been, will be posted on the county's website. But I just want to say kudos and congratulations to the team of employees for 2021. Mr. David Harrison, Deputy County Administrator, has done an outstanding job in working with our team members. You all know that 2021, again, was the year of the pandemic, as was 2020. And we do have Mr. Phelps, our emergency services coordinator, who obviously did a lot in terms of making sure that our citizens was best protected, and we did a lot in terms of getting vaccinations out to the residents and the citizens here in Surry County. So we have done a lot, and I just want to say again, thank you for your support as a board for allowing us to be able to effectively manage and do what we need to do to be able to operate officially as a government. So thank you all so very much for your support in 2021. And that concludes my comments for tonight, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And I guess in concluding that, I will ask if you will give Mr. Phelps just a minute to come up, if he's still here, Mr. Phelps. If you can come up and just talk briefly, just to give the board a brief update. As you all know, we're still in the pandemic, so we are paying attention to the numbers and want to be able to provide the citizens with resources. So, Mr. Phelps, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman. Congratulations, congratulations, Vice Chair. Good evening, board members, Ms. Rollins, the citizens of Surry County. Surry County Emergency Manager would like to just give you a brief update. Surry County is experiencing a rise in COVID positive cases, with our current case total at 774 with 13 deaths. The state of Virginia is currently at a high rate of transmission. This is across the entire state. Not one locality is not considered in the high transmission. Over the past 24 hours, we have added 8 positive cases with a 7-day average of 11 new cases daily. So we are increasing.
That's here in the county, Mr. Phelps?
That's in the county, yes, sir. We recommend that those that have not been vaccinated visit the county website and click on the COVID-19 vaccination link, and that'll direct you on how you can go about receiving a vaccine. Surry County will be offering drive-through testing on January 21st at the Emergency Operations Center. Time to be announced later once I confirm that with Crater Health District on the time. We are also working with the Crater Health District to offer take-home rapid antigen test kits as early as next week. So there's a few things we're working on. We are asking that you continue to abide by CDC guidelines, wear a mask when needed, maintain 6-foot distancing, and wash your hands often. Another thing that Surry County is working on is our radio project. Our selection process is nearing its end. We will be conducting vendor presentations on January 12th, and we'll be selecting a vendor shortly after that. The only other hot topic right now is the weather. We're supposed to experience some winter weather starting tomorrow. Most of it looks like it is heading north, which is good. But there is that possibility that we've got a 30 to 40% chance of rain around 2 to 3 a.m. this morning, and temperatures will start dropping to the freezing point around commute time. So there is that possibility of some black ice out there. As far as snowfall chance, it's 0 to little to none for our area. But VDOT's done a great job on treating the primary roads, but it's those secondary roads that I'm pretty concerned about with the possibility of black ice. So other than that, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, and thank you for your report.
Excuse me,
I was
Madam
hoping we
Chair?
were going to have that. Yes.
Can I ask one quick question? Is the county addressing booster shots anytime soon? Is that?
We have been, and what has been occurring is on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month, you can receive a booster shot or your first vaccination shot or your second vaccination shot for all 3 vaccines at the health department, local health department, between 8:30 and 10:30 in the morning. This is on the website. It's also Lauren is taking care of making sure it's posted on our Facebook page. So I appreciate that. So it runs on there. Should be on there continuously because it's the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month. So and our last turnout, I guess it was last Wednesday before last. I was roughly 30, I think 8 people, citizens received their shots there. So, all right,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? I didn't realize we had a third shot.
Yes, ma'am. Some of them are called third shots and some of them are called booster shots, depending on what, if you got Moderna or Pfizer.
Oh,
But, the flyer, there's some in the back, I believe.
This
Some in
one?
the back, yes, ma'am.
Okay, explains.
You can go to the link there. I believe there may even be a phone number, but you can go to the link and actually, it'll direct you through on how to, register for the next shot.
Because I've had 2 shots and a booster. I was hoping that was it.
You're most likely, if you've had the booster, then you're good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that report. And okay, any comments, board comments at this time?
Board comments?
Yeah, we're at board comments.
Did you get the public comments?
Oh, I think we've had the public.
No, we have not.
We have not? Oh, okay. Public comments first.
Public comments.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
board members, I've been hearing 2 years now about the improved Dinner and Duns dump site, and I've yet to see it. The last 3 or 4 days between Christmas and New Year's, it was a total disaster with every dumpster full, spilling on the ground, the big dumpster full, spilling on the ground. When are you going to produce a new dump site you promised us? We're tax-paying citizens of Surry County, and that's the only county utility that we, most of the time, most of us use. So I'd like to see some action on it, you know, instead of talking the talk, walk the walk. Could you have them copy and give the other board members those photographs there? And I've been in touch with Mr. Phelps. There's 2 350-foot guide towers in Surry County that are unlit, which are a hazard to aviation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Eggleston. We appreciate your oversight of the county, and I've heard you speak many times about those things, so I'm sure staff have heard you, and prayerfully we will soon have an update for you.
They checked one day for county stickers and county people dumping, and that was it. And I see trucks with Richmond, Tri-City on the side, and Norfolk businesses. Everybody knows that nobody's going to stop them from dumping there, and that's why it's constantly overflowing.
Thank you. We appreciate you sharing that information, something that I'm sure staff will entertain. Any other public comments?
Hello again,
Hi.
Ms. Little. Thank you very much. I represent Bacon's Castle District. I have a couple of items. Number one is the auditor reported that the county had $20 million of undesignated funds. Why did the county raise the taxes on the people in the county, declaring it was almost an emergency to do so when we had $20 million of undesignated funds?
Okay, thank you.
Second one is, this is 2 times this last year, I applied for a permit to build something. The first time there was a lot of questions, and it took me 6 weeks to get that permit. I didn't really have to apply for it because the size of the project was under the 500 square feet, but I did it because I thought I should. Secondly, in November, a company that I've hired to build a solar array for my home applied for a permit. I personally called Mr. Turner when they called me asking for a plat of the land. The question was, there was no designation for where the drain field is on my home. The same question was raised when I applied for the first permit. I explained that there is no diagrams, there never was. That was validated by Mr. Turner. The same question was asked when they applied for the permit to put up my solar array. They wouldn't return the construction company's phone calls. I called Mr. Turner. He did, in fact, call me back. We went through what happened the first time, and he agreed that it happened. And so that question went away. He gave me the guidance to give to the company to put on the drawing for where the drain field was. So they did that. The planning organization has refused many, many times to return phone companies from this construction company. Mr. Turner has also refused to return my calls. Mr. Wade has refused to return my calls. Is it normal policy in the county for people not to return phone calls? I don't understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, we thank you for those remarks, and we'll investigate, as what I would say at this time. I know our, if it's all right, board members, to address Mr. Chandler. I do know that our planning department has been short-staffed and that they have so many projects. Is that an excuse, a good excuse? I don't know, but hopefully we can improve the services there. Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Okay, hearing none and seeing no one approach, board comments. You want to start with Mr. Howell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I want to say Happy New Year's to everyone again, and I appreciate everybody coming out. We've definitely had a long agenda. I'm not going to belabor the hour. As I said at the State of the County address, greater happens here in Surry County, and it's for many different reasons and many causes. And I want us to keep that momentum as we shared during that great celebration as we move forth in 2022 to continue to improve upon services, to meet challenges, and to embrace opportunities, and to work together as county leadership and administration and staff and people and citizens, businesses, to help move this county forward. And so I look forward to 2022 and what it has to bring, and looking forward to serve the constituency across the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howell.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Ms. Chair, I would like to congratulate you and welcome you to your new seat. Mr. Howell, the same with you as co-chair. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to working with you all in your capacities. I think we will, as we have been, work well as a board together. I'd like to wish everyone a Happy New Year. Ms. Rollins, I thank you for you and your staff for the efforts and all the hard work you all did in 2021, and we're not expecting any less for 2022. But thank you all, and looking forward to moving ahead in 2022 and making Surry a better place and see the progress forthcoming. Thank you.
Mr. Elliott?
I would just like to congratulate our new chairwoman and Mr. Howell, vice chair. Look forward to working with you and anticipate great things coming forth to Surry County. I have a major concern with the pandemic, the rise in the cases. Mr. Phelps said we're averaging 11 new cases per day. And I just want to recommend to staff to look back at maybe putting some safety precautions in place that we may have lifted. That's a higher rate than what we had when we put the safety precautions in. We want to keep everybody safe, and this is nothing to actually play with. And I know you may get some feedback, staff, if we were to revert back to something, but we need to keep our staff safe and the citizens as well. So if we may need to go back, again, something to look at, appointment only in the building, we may have to do that. And I know some people may not like that, but if you were the one to catch COVID, then you would be glad that we put these safety precautions in place. And it's only a temporary thing, but we need to make sure we keep our citizens safe in the county. So I'm asking staff to look at the CDC guidelines and what we can do to keep everybody safe here in the county. And I look forward to a great year here in Surry County. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. And I would just like to say that I'm happy to be back in the place of chair for a little while, for the year anyway. And I want to thank my board members and the staff for their work that they have done throughout the last years, and looking forward to great works from them the coming years, and that we would try to improve our public outreach and support of phone calling and those items that that we've heard tonight that have may been an issue. I know it's hard when you got so many things to do, and we're not that fully staffed in certain positions. And so it does make things a little harder to attend to at different times. But we have some exciting things coming up for the new year, and we're looking forward to that. And I also want to thank our Treasurer and Commonwealth Commissioner of Revenue for the jobs that they do, and all those other offices where they have to service the citizens. And hopefully, I don't know how many of our employees have been affected. I don't think. Have we? Do we have a report of that? We do. But as Mr. Elliott is saying, whatever we need to do to help that situation would be welcome also. But I'm looking forward to a prosperous 2022 for all of us, and keep us informed. I don't think any of us as board members would mind you approaching them with your concerns. So look forward again, and thank you. And congratulations to Mr. Howell and Mr. Elliott. You were an excellent chairman. Thank you for your service. I appreciate your service to this county. Those are my remarks.
Well, if that's it,
I will
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn this meeting until our next scheduled meeting.
Second.
Been motion and second that we'll adjourn this meeting to the next February the 6th.